Hello, my name's Amy. I am an indie author living in the north of England and I make videos about navigating the creative life. Today I wanted to catch you up on what I'm working on and more specifically talk about how I am going to be refreshing my creative process this summer. A lot of things have changed for me over the last couple of months, and that has led to some really big shifts in the way I am working right now. Now, for a very quick recap, I am currently working on editing the second book in a fantasy series. The book itself is called Dragon Flame, and the first book, Shadow Dragon, came out in May of last year. Dragon Flame has been in the works since the summer of 2025. It is shaping up to be by far the longest thing I have ever written. It is massive, it is complicated, it is truly epic fantasy, and it was also supposed to be released several weeks ago. Whereas I am still in the middle of edits, but it is just so much longer and more complicated than I expected it was going to be. Because of that, my deadlines have been pushed all over the place, and I have had to reapproach the writing process to make space and motivation, that's a big thing, for such a big book. And this brings us to the first thing I have changed this spring that I'm going to be taking forward into the summer. And that is taking my creativity more seriously. Now, I have always taken my writing very seriously. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I don't publish anything that I don't truly believe is my best work at that moment. But at the same time, I do know in years past there have been periods when I have kind of let the writing slide. I will always be working on something, but if I don't make writing my number one priority, it is very easy to get to the end of the day, find I haven't written anything at all, and then just decide maybe I'll watch a film instead. For the last couple of months though, I have been really making sure that does not happen. My creativity and my writing are important to me, and I suppose you could say I have been really showing up for myself in that regard. This has certainly taken quite a lot of willpower. There are times when I do not want to work, I don't want to open the laptop, I don't want to get down to writing when I have had a really long and stressful day. But I've been telling myself again and again that if writing is my priority and I am taking it as seriously as I say I am, then I have to physically make time for it. It's not going to happen on its own. Now, this is something of a dangerous strategy, I do know that. It is very easy to fill up every single moment of your day and then get burnt out and overwhelmed. I literally just made a video talking about how I work all the time, and that has led to me not really having any hobbies. What I'm finding at the moment, though, is that prioritizing my writing actually feels incredible. It is very easy to make excuses for ourselves. We're tired, we're overwhelmed, we're too busy. And yes, sometimes that is true, and we will get on to rest and hobbies in a minute. But I also know sometimes, for me at least, they really are just excuses. So pushing those aside, making sure writing really is a priority, has been incredibly satisfying, and it has really restored my faith in my creative ability, I think. But alongside taking the writing so seriously, I have been bringing in more of an element of play into my creativity. And I have done this by increasing the variety of what I'm working on. I'm editing Dragon Flame, and that is what has to get done before everything else. But right now I am also gearing up to draft a different book in the background. I am making these videos again, aiming to get one up every week. I am also making some very different videos on a separate channel in a niche that I really did not think I would ever touch. And this does sound like a lot, I know. working on 2 books, running 2 YouTube channels, and this is alongside everything else I have going on in my life. But what I'm finding is that this variety has really fired me up. Somehow having more to do and not less has actually just made me more excited, more invigorated. I am so much keener to get to the laptop every day. And if one project is not working out just at that moment, I can switch over to something completely different and still keep my mind turning. So I think this is the point that has surprised me the most. Over the last couple of years, when I've been setting out my to-do lists and my goals every week or month, I have tried to limit the number of things I was working on. It seemed to me that that would allow me to focus better on my writing and also give me more time for rest. But what I really found was that I just procrastinated more. I then felt terrible about that, and my creativity as a whole really suffered. It turns out that for me at least, having more to do, and specifically having that variety of projects, has made every single one of them more exciting, more interesting to me. And instead of the creative projects sometimes feeling like a chore, I am just enjoying all of them so much. This does though bring us onto the subject of rest. Now, historically, I have not been very good at resting. I know that, I have said it in multiple videos before, and of course, as I said, I've talked recently about not really having any proper hobbies because I tend to turn them into either chores or jobs. So I have been much more careful recently about what I class as rest, and really paying attention to what is actually working for me. I have found that there's actually a fairly limited selection of activities that really make me feel better at the end of a busy day. One is reading, and I have been doing as much of that as possible. I have also found that watching content on YouTube is also really restorative for me, with the caveat that it has to be a certain type of vlog and creator, it has to be relaxing and motivating, and it has to be long form because shorts do not do it for me at all. And the other thing, as I mentioned in that previous video, is I have been trying out some different creative activities like watercolour painting, and I'm being very deliberate about all these things and trying to fit them in. Not only are these activities quite restorative for me and they make me feel better, but they are also keeping me away from the things that make me feel terrible, like for example scrolling online and social media. A big part of rest, quite honestly, has been completely getting off social media. I have in the past had a lot of guilt about whether I needed to be on Instagram or Twitter or Substack as a writer, and in the last couple of months I have really given myself permission to just say no to all of them. I am sending out my email newsletter every month, I am making these videos, and that is it. Because what I realised is that it's not the time of making the content that was really getting to me. It was the feeling that I also needed to spend time on those social platforms, I needed to engage with people, and then of course I would fall into the trap of needing to see what was new and trending and going viral. I would start scrolling, I would start getting into the weeds of these platforms, and what started as a marketing activity, for example, would quickly become a massive time suck that just made me feel awful. So this summer, more intentional rest, or that is certainly my goal. This is the one part of this plan that is taking the most getting used to. But I really want to be spending my non-writing and non-work time doing things that actually refill the creative well. Reading, catching up with other creators, spending time with my family, painting, hiking, and crucially, not feeling that I have to document all of that in an effort to market my books. And finally, I wanted to mention one very specific point in relation to my writing, and that is I am currently trying a process where I spend more time planning my books, but crucially not outlining them. Now, there is a distinction there, or at least there is for me. I tend to plan first drafts as I go. I will write a chapter or two, I will stop, I will make more notes, then I will keep writing, and so on until the end of the book. But this has always had very specific problems for me. I will always get to the end of a first draft and discover that I have various plot holes, usually relating to character motivations, to backstory and world building. The plot itself might be quite solid, but there are all these little details and continuity issues that just take me so long to iron out in edits. Now, traditional outlining might fix that problem. I do know that, but I find outlining quite boring. I have tried various different methods. I did have some success with the snowflake method a couple of years ago, but the prospect of fully outlining books just does not fill me with joy. So I have been trying something a bit different recently, and when I get into drafting my next book, we will see whether it works. Instead of trying to write a concrete outline, chapter by chapter, I am instead just spending as much time as possible journaling about the story before I start writing. Now, in this process, I am not trying to put anything in order. I am not even deliberately trying to plot the book, but I am thinking about the characters and what drives them. I am thinking about world building details. Frequently, when I sit down to journal about the book, I don't actually know what I'm going to work out in that session. I just put pen to paper and see what comes out. And this has been a really interesting experiment so far. I've spent the last month doing this, journaling about the new book maybe 3 or 4 times a week. I have pages and pages of notes, and it has been really interesting to see how much detail I have kind of excavated from the back of my brain. I have not put this into order. I don't have an outline. I don't know if I'm going to use everything I have journaled about. I really don't know how much of it is going to be relevant. But I'm going into this draft feeling that I know much more about the world and the characters and the plot that might develop from that than I normally would. And I'm really hoping that that means there will be fewer continuity issues by the time I reach the end of the draft, and the editing process will be much smoother. So there we have it, my 5 big points for how I am going to refresh my creative process this summer. To recap, those are taking my creativity more seriously, having a bigger variety of projects, resting more intentionally, getting completely off social media, and more planning, less outlining. I would love to know if any of that resonated with you. I am absolutely certain that some of this will change as I get into the summer, because I am changing bits of my writing life all the time, but I'm feeling really good about the process right now. The last 4 to 6 weeks of my writing and also video making have been some of the most enjoyable and productive I have had in recent memory. I really feel that my creativity is thriving right now in a way that it hasn't for a very long time. So it feels wonderful to be able to share that with you, and I hope it gives you some ideas of how you could revamp your own practice. So keep writing, everyone, and I'll see you next time.